A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are back with yet another program on management accounting insights into management's perspective on emerging technologies and its impact on finance. We have close to more than 1,200 members who have joined us, and it's really a great privilege to ensure that all of us move in the right stream. Ladies and gentlemen, today's program is being hosted by Himachal Pradesh branch of NIRC. I have the chairman, CA Jatinder Sharma, and CA Navneet Sharma from the branch. I also have the chief guest of the day, CA Lalit Malik, who happens to be the CFO of Torrent Power Limited. The most esteemed speaker of the day who would be addressing us all is CA Vikram Pandya, and the entire program shall be held by none other than Madam Pooja Trikha, who is the past chairman of Amritsar branch. So, ladies and gentlemen, I can only say that we are very passionately designed to ensure that we give the best to all the membership across the country. Over to Madam Pooja for further proceedings. Madam, the dice is all yours now.
Thank you so much, Nandaji. Thank you so much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I warmly welcome you all to this wonderful session of the series Management Accounting Insights, which is the virtual program we are conducting under the CPE Committee of Management Accounting Committee. Friends, this is a wonderful time to learn sitting at home. It's a difficult time, I understand, because of the COVID pandemic. But I think with our positive insights and positive thoughts, we can bring this, we can fight out this pandemic, spreading positive news, keeping ourselves updating. I think that's the key for the day. I would like to start the program with a little request for wellness of everybody. There's an important, very, very, important shloka which we recite regularly, and I make sure each of my, family members also and my children do recite this for the well-being of the country. We shall start the program with this insight, and then we'll continue with the program. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani paschyantu, ma kaschit dukh bhave. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om, may all be happy. May all be free from illness. May all see what is auspicious. May no one ever suffer. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. With this prayer, I think we can start the program. This program is basically, will be taking up two sessions. One will be an address with our chief guest, special address by CA Lalit Malik ji, who is CFO Torrent Power Limited. We shall have a very, very good program from CA Vikram Pandya ji, who is Director of FinTech, SP Jain School of Global Management. We have amongst us a very, very dynamic, very, very power packed CA Charanjot Singh Nanda ji, who is the chairman of this committee. The program is hosted by Himachal Pradesh branch of NIRC of ICAI. We have amongst us CA Jatinder Sharma ji, CA Navneet Sharma ji, who is the vice chairman. To start up the program, I would request CA Jatinder Sharma ji, who is the chairman Himachal Pradesh branch, to give a welcome note address and introduce CA Charanjot Singh Nanda ji. Over to you, Jatinder ji.
Thank you, Pooja ji. Very good evening to one and all present in the today's virtual CPE meeting. At the onset, I, CA Jatinder Sharma, on behalf of HP branch of NIRC of ICI and on my own behalf, welcome you all for today's meeting on management perspective on emerging technologies and its impact on finance. Respected members, on behalf of everyone, I would like to welcome CA Charanjot Singh Nanda, the chairman of Committee on Management Accounting of ICAI. If I talk about his academic qualifications, he has done his matriculation from D. Nobili School, Sizua in 1983 and done his BCom from MLN College in 1987 and was placed in Kurukshetra University merit list during all 3 years. Thereafter, he did his CA from Institute of Chartered Accountants of India in 1991, where he secured 35th rank in All India merit list in CA Intermediate. Further, he was the chairman of so many committees of NIRC of ICAI and also the member of number of standing and non-standing committees of NIRC of ICAI. He is in the profession of practicing chartered accountant since 1991 and has interest in the fields of capital market, banking, human relation management, corporate laws, taxation, audit, and management consultancy. Sir, thank you for sparing your valuable time for being the part of this program and request you to address the members.
Thank you.
Nandaji.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jitendraji, for a very scintillating address of yours. Ladies and gentlemen, it is always a proud privilege to come and address my fellow members. Let me very candidly put that all of us are aware that our institute, the Great Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, was set up an Act of Parliament way back on 1st July 1949, when the most important document to the democracy, the Constitution, was not adopted. All of us are well aware that the Constitution to this great country was adopted on 26 January 1950. The pertinent question that arises is, what prompted the Constituent Assembly to set up an Institute of Chartered Accountants of India when their own democratic setup was not in place? The answer is very candid, very simple, very forthcoming. They were looking for a disciplined band of soldiers to steer this country out of confusion. And there we stand even today. In these times of pandemic, I see people such a great shloka. When she was reciting the shloka, I could see her conviction, her passion, which drives people. But unfortunately, in a country like India, we see a larger band of people, unfortunately, who deem God to be toy. Way back 500 years from now, Sant Kabir recited a shloka. The shlok was, माथे तिलक हाथ माला बाना, तिलक लगाकर हाथ में माला लेकर, माथे तिलक हाथ माला बाना, लोगन राम खिलौना जाना. People deem God to be toy, and today you see where we are. We all have to work, and particularly chartered accountants have to work to ensure that our great country is again back to the path of progress. We are the backbone of the entire economy. I was so thankful that Mr. Lalit Malik immediately accepted that he would come and speak here. People of his stature, people who have lived their life, who have as captains steered the companies from rough weather to a great, passionate ground where they could work. The greener pastures have been created by them. And therefore, I invited Mr. Lalit Malik. I invested Mr. Vikram Pandya so as to give us newer insights how we can perform. You are aware that emerging technologies and its impact on finance. So when you speak about emerging technologies, it is a term generally used to describe technologies that are currently developed or are expected to be available within the next 5 to 10 years so as to assist the business, so as to ensure that the business is navigated to an ecosystem where working is appropriate, working is up to the mark. It may also refer to the continuous development of an existing technology used in different areas such as media, business, science, or education. Technology is the benchmark of today's progress. We all work only when we have to our aid a great mechanism of technology so that we are effectively equipped to deliver what is expected of us. These emerging technologies are creating or expected to create significant social, economic, and financial impact in an economy, and today we are looking at it. I'll give you some of the few recent emerging technologies. The one First is IoT, Internet of Things. We are all aware the Internet of Things is the emerging technology offering the greatest opportunities to create new business and revenues by providing the data needed to improve markets, increase sales, and decrease costs. Today's the entire working is on data. If you are able to effectively navigate the data, you are at a better place. You are on an edge with your competitors. And largely when disruptive technology is taking its place in markets, they have the lion's share in the market. That is only possible when you are able to maneuver the data and see that it is in sync with the policy that's set up by the board or the audit committee, as the case may be. Second, artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, the ability of a digital computer or computer-controlled robot to perform tasks commonly associated with intelligent beings. It has an artificial intelligence and builds in and draws the thought process so as to create a viable ground where proper decisions can be made and proper inferences drawn. Third is 5G network. In telecommunication, 5G is the fifth generation technology standard for broader cellular networks, which cellular phone companies began deploying worldwide in 2019 and is the planned successor to the 4G network, wherein everything is at the back of a button and everything is so sophisticated, so synchronized that you can use it for the progress of your data mining and, more importantly, implementation of the thought process in the business. The fourth is blockchain. You are aware the blockchain industry involves a distributed electronic payment system which utilizes virtual currency to facilitate the commission of online anonymous transactions. I can give you an example. For example, I want to sponsor a girl child. I want to give 1 lakh rupees every year. So normally when I give 1 lakh rupees, I have apprehension in my mind whether the money is effectively used in serving that girl child or is used or misappropriated on another way. By blockchain, I can always keep a track of every rupee that is spent. The biggest beneficiary of blockchains are NPOs, charitable trusts, where people who want to sponsor, all of us want to effectively give money for philanthropic purposes, but we are afraid where it is used. So blockchain helps us move in that direction. The next is robotics. Robotics is an automatic routine process by using machines to make business faster, less expensive, more efficient and error-free. I remember 2 years back I was in Anaheim in IAA conference, Los Angeles. So there I saw robots who cost so less. 2 years from now, the robots was not more than 6,600, 500 and he could do entries without getting ill, without being afraid of the wife or without being afraid of holidays, and they could work incessantly and give the desired objectives. So our profession also needs to gear up because now basic issues would walk out and where our intellect can be utilized by the business, those opportunities will be created. Next is biometrics. Biometrics includes face fingerprint and retina scans and are becoming mainstream methods for verifying identity for secure foundation. If you go to Dubai, the moment you get down, they'll have your retina test and then they'll allow you going in because it's very clear a person with the retina imprint can go inside. There's no impersonification in such cases. The next is 3D printing. What is 3D printing? It offers a solution for the low volume manufacturing of complex parts as well as fast local production of difficult to find products. So that printing 3D, you remember we used to see 3D movies, put a specs and put 3 action coming on us to us. So now that has been effectively made in all general business instruments and general usage of documents. The next is drones. Drones enable robotic automation with fewer geographical restrictions. In marriages, you say drones taking right photographs and giving the best view which is possible. Next is financial impact of emerging technology. So what is the financial impact of this technology? Emerging technology in the diverse form are revolutionizing the world of work by creating and evolving the nature of leadership, management roles, and more importantly, professional careers. Emerging technologies also impact revenue and profitability. The simple ability to collect payments with smartphones change the game for many small and medium-sized business. The use of location-based services to find customers by logistic companies like Ola and Uber. You are aware that when you simply pin in your mobile and you find the nearest Ola and Uber, and that moves everything that needs to be moved quickly and cost-effectively. Most importantly, financial institutions greatly benefit from these technologies. The advent of smart analytics allows financial service companies to mine the wealth of computer data to understand and service customers. Emerging technology has also helped organizations to develop innovative financial services. The development of better payment systems is a key challenge for organizations. Exponential growth in emerging technology has prompted companies to generate higher revenues and securing large business all around the world. We have two very revered speakers, the Chief Guest of the Day and the Speaker, Mr. Vikram Pandey. I would not like to dwell on everything, but I understand this is a very exciting topic where you can draw certain things and take it home. It will make you understand things and put at rest so many doubts that could have kept in over the years. You can go home more light, more aware, and more enlightened. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm thankful that I could speak to you in this time of pandemic. The more we are able to meet each other virtually is a boon given by God. I pray that all of you stay together, stay safe, stay blessed, and please do not move out of your houses. Get vaccinated and ensure that we win out of this pandemic. We are people of a different turpitude. मैं खुदा का नाम लेकर पी रहा हूं दोस्तों, मैं खुदा का नाम लेकर पी रहा हूं दोस्तों, जहर भी इसमें हुआ तो दवा हो जाएगा, जहर भी इसमें हुआ तो दवा हो जाएगा. In all turbulent times, it is faith that drives a man, and there we stand with full faith in the Almighty and our institute to ensure that we give the best not only to our clients but all stakeholders, to the regulators and to the governments. Thank you so much. Over to Madam Trika. Madam, the dice is all yours now.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for such words of wisdom and motivation to all of us. I think we've all always enjoyed you speaking and always want you to speak more and more. But we have with us our chief guest also. We should not be keeping him waiting. Friends, we have amongst us CA Lalit Malik ji. I would briefly introduce him to you. He is a CPA, FCA, AICWA, ACS, LLB, and is an acknowledged leader with over 33 years of varied experience in the field of financial planning and strategy, accounting under US GAAP, IFRS, and Indian GAAP, corporate restructuring, mergers, takeovers, treasury, tax planning and execution, budgeting, corporate governance, risk management, regulation and compliances, etc. He is currently working with Torrent Power Limited as an executive director and CFO and has worked in the past in leadership roles with Dabur India Limited, Moser Bear India Limited, American Express India Private Limited, Procter & Gamble, Gillette India Limited, international experience in corporate headquarters of Gillette in US, Philips India Limited, and Sharp & Tannen. He has been awarded as by Financial Express CFO Awards 2020 as the most influential CFO of India by SEMA and ranked amongst 3 best CFOs for consistent liquidity management business work. Over to you, Lalit sir. It's wonderful to know you, and I think the August gathering today will benefit from your talk. We request you to please continue with the deliberation, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much for your kind words and good evening, everybody. I want to wish everybody good health and safety for themselves as well as for their family. I think it's very important testing time for all of us, and health is the first priority that we have. And I want to thank for organizing this session because, you know, we always say that learning and development is something which we cannot ignore, and especially our institute is always focused on continuous learning. And I think that is the backbone of ensuring that the value that we create for the society at large is very, very valuable and important. So with this small introduction, I will just move on with the topic for the day, emerging technologies and its impact on finance. I think one thing what we have seen is that technology is the backbone for any organization that you are working with. And the pace of the technology is changing at a very, very fast pace currently. If you compare it with past, I think the speed has really increased many-fold now. I do remember 34 years back when our trial balance never used to tally. And that was one of the key requirements before we close our accounts. And we used to use FASIC machines to do that. Today, we have come a long way from there, where Mr. Nanda has been talking about the technologies that we have, which is either blockchain or RPA, artificial intelligence, etc. So I think there is a sea change. And our institute has always kept pace with this change to add value to the society and to the organization at large. So I would say that, you know, the pace of technology is changing very, very fast, and the adaptability and getting the advantage of that is something which as an organization one needs to always look at. More so, if I were to look back 12 to 18 months when the COVID unexpectedly had a crisis situation for the world, I think technology has come to a major rescue. I'm remembered of the fact that, some quotes which I read, which says that we don't need banks, but we need banking. And what was really experienced was that, people were not using checks. They online transfer, the RTGS and the NACH, etc., have become so prominent. The payment gateways have really helped people to sit in their home and work around. And not only that, work from home. I think today we are talking with, you rightly said that we have so many professional participants joining at this forum. I think 2 years back, perhaps this was not very common. And what we have seen is that technology has really helped people to come together in this crisis area and make best use of it. And I call it converting challenges into opportunities. I think that's one of the key advantage that we have seen in the technology area that we have talked about. And, just to give few examples, I think Mr. Nanda has already shared those. So if I were to look at how we are using RPA, the first thing was in the finance, we looked at the shared services where, you could collectively do as a common place with the finance professionals, the back end office or the processing of the documents and the transaction processing. Now with the RPA, robotic process automation, you can do away with those manual transactions which are standard in nature and work across through automation. You can do away with the requirement of execution of these documents. But on the other hand, you have time available to spend on doing the analysis of your data. Now, what is happening is as a finance function, we are no more required to do compilation, but our role is becoming more of a business support at a very large level. And we are partnering with business for ensuring their common goal, which we talk about as a sustainable, profitable growth. And all these three components are extremely relevant and important in this scenario. And finance is to participate in their common goal and not just talk about, being a compiler or a bean counter. Now here, technology is helping finance in a big way. Like I just gave an example of RPA. You can spare that time which you are spending on doing the normal recording of transactions through RPA. Another very important area is, Mr. Nanda talked about, is the artificial intelligence. I think the data analysis that we have and the progressive decision-making support that one can do for the business, whether it is, what will be the scenario if I were to launch a new product, or what would be the implications on the pricing, or what is the trend that we are having. I think that is something which artificial intelligence is giving a lot of importance and adding value to the organization. So the importance of finance is changing from being compiler to more decision-making support, providing analytical data, analytical support from that perspective. We talked about the blockchain. I think even in supply chain, blockchain is becoming very, very important, especially in my previous role where we were talking about, having the source of our products. So we could decide whether the honey is sourced from a particular location and where it is moving, where it is reaching. So one could have the tracing of that, and that would help in terms of driving value to the customer or to the consumer. And therefore, I think the role of technology is not just restricted to one or two areas, it is going across all the areas. Even when we talk about HR, I think the learning through gamification has become very common and very prominent. And therefore, I think these are the few examples that are giving a great advantage to the finance function. And just last but not the least, I would also like to draw attention to the fact that we have seen in the last year, the board meetings and even the shareholders meetings are happening digitally. Now, earlier, it used to be restricted only to one common place where only few of the shareholders were able to attend. Now, there is no bar on the locational restrictions, and one can join the shareholders meeting and one can, ask questions or understand the business performances. So these are the advantages that are in view of the challenges are available with us. And what is important as a finance function is how quickly we are able to adapt to these changes and convert these challenges into opportunities to give us the competitive edge compared to other organizations, and how fast we can execute these changes that are required to be implemented. And therefore, I think every organization will have to introspect by saying where they are currently, where they want to be, where is the gap, and how they want to fill it up. And in that, again, finance plays a very important role in making a decision on that. To give you some examples, that historically we have been talking about, technologically having servers at our own place. Wherein today, with the cloud facility available, you need not have the servers at your own place. Now, there is the decision required whether we should have CapEx or an OpEx. Now, that is where we have to work around what is the better ROI that we are able to get, and what are the pros and cons of each of these options available. Going to cloud, the advantages that you get is you don't need to put any CapEx. At the same time, you have a flexibility to increase the capacity because the facility is available, it is pay per use kind of scenario, and also you are flexible to either increase or decrease as your business progresses. In addition to that, because the cloud have a general control over its security, your data can be more secured compared to what you have. And one of the concepts we all work on is called as business continuity planning, where we always look for the backup data support. Here with the cloud, I think they already have their own backup data support available, which may be more sophisticated. So therefore, one has to now look at the options that are available to us, whether we can look for the CapEx and commit ourselves for a longer period of time, or look at for the OpEx. Another very important aspect about this decision is that technology pace is changing very, very fast. And obsolescence is becoming very prominent. So as a finance professional, one can be stuck with the obsolete asset to be written off, which can have a financial implication. So how to make the best use of those transactions is one of the very important criteria. Coming to another example, let's talk about the GST implementation. Without the technological support to have this automation or e-invoicing could not have been possible, whether it is from the government side or also from the SSC side. And today, the digital options that are available even to small and medium based MSMEs organizations, they need not invest huge amount into technology. They can buy off-the-shelf products available, which can provide on the digital support available, and they can still ensure the compliance is done. And if there is a change, the change can happen very easily. And these products now are available at a very easy use. You don't need too detailed a training or a long-term training for it to be done. So therefore, I think there are many examples where technology has facilitated, one, providing proper governance, 2, for the compliance, 3, for the cost reduction, 4, for bringing efficiency, and 5, for helping in terms of decision-making support. And I always consider that as a finance, our expectation is to have 5C core functional areas, which talks about control, compliance, consistency, continuous improvement, and communication. And in all that, the technology plays a very important role. And just to spend a minute on that, when we talk about control, it helps in terms of building in right control through the technological support available and do away with the manual control there. It also helps in controlling the cost, because the technology is quite efficient in terms of eliminating the cost and reducing the cost and monitoring the cost. 3, in terms of consistency, when we have different locations, different manufacturing unit, distribution units, you can have consistency and uniformity, not just within India, but also international. So that provides the consistency part of this. Continuous improvement is one that you cannot sit on your laurels to say that, I have taken this journey of transformation and now I'm done with it, I will not change. It's a continuous process where one needs to keep on reinventing oneself and keep on improving, upgrading. And it is again the technology which in finance one needs to look at. And very importantly, in finance, I try to use Kaizen as the methodology for continuous improvement, where even one manufacturing unit can bring in some automation or the improvement, which can be replicated across different units, different locations, different geographies. And that can make it a multiplier effect of these advantages in finance function. Last but not the least is communication. It's extremely important that these changes that technology brings in is being communicated across the functions, not just restricted with finance. And therefore, that becomes extremely important to incorporate. Now, these are great advantages that we are talking about of the technology. Now, it always comes in a package. I agree that the technology, we are now working remotely, work from home, we are widely using technology, but it has also brought in a risk attached with this. The risk is of data leakage, data lost, cyber attack. So these are the risks also associated when you use technology extensively. So the organization has to pay a lot of focus on ensuring that proper control and measures are taken to use the technology in a most secured manner. Now, what it requires is that, number one, it is one of the topmost priority in the risk framework for any corporation, where the corporations are taking proactive actions to ensure that they can provide data security. Even from the SEBI's perspective, UPSI is very important, which is the unpublished sensitive information. Now, how do we control and restrict only on need-to-know basis, and how do we record these transactions are only possible through the use of technology? And apart from that, there is a requirement to invest in the data security tools, which needs to monitor it on a continuous basis. And at the same time, there are options available of getting 27001 certifications to ensure that we are able to provide adequate security, especially when people are working from home, they are using the pen drives, etc. What kind of measures one needs to take so that there is a proper security of our data, and especially of the confidential data, especially of the proprietary data where we have the IPRs, etc. So therefore, the technology advantage comes with lots of responsibility, which as an organization, we need to pay adequate attention on that. And not only to restrict on one-time exercise, this again is going to be a continuous process which one needs to keep on upgrading, because not to forget that, even when we talk about phishing emails, or we talk about attack, they are also developing every time. So therefore, we have seen some example in the past where the cost of such attacks can be very high on the organization. So therefore, one needs to be very much vigilant when we use the technology from that perspective. And possibly organizations are also going ahead and taking appropriate insurance against such events happening. So these are few areas on the technology that, on the one hand, it is a very, very important tool and a backbone for any organization to grow, and one needs to use it in the areas, whether it is cloud, whether it is RPA, whether it is AI and blockchain, etc. But at the same time, one needs to have adequate discipline and the process and control. And now I will come to a very important area, that how do we ensure that these technologies are being taken at best advantage of. These are the people or the labor force within the organization. They are the main source. Therefore, continuous upskilling and learning of technology and do's and don'ts become extremely important in an organization. You can have best of the technology, but if the people are not equipped or geared up or updated, you may not be able to get the best advantage out of those technologies. So therefore, there is a big responsibility to invest into the upskilling or the training of the finance team, which also one needs to factor in while ensuring that we are able to leverage the technologies as we go ahead. Now, I think, as I said, this is not just one-time effort, it is also a continuous process, as the technology is also changing very fast, and we are very close to getting 5G technology coming in, and again, scenario will undergo a major change, and therefore we need to prepare ourselves in advance to leverage those to get us the competitive advantage that one can derive out of these technological advantage that we have. And I'm just remembered of a very important quote on technology and its impact on finance, which I want to just share, which says that our future success is directly proportionate to our ability to understand, adapt, and integrate new technologies into our work and our plan. So I think this is very important that we need to factor in and ensure that we are able to best leverage the technology while keeping adequate controls in place for our competitive advantage, so that we are able to get sustainable, profitable growth. And all three factors are extremely important for any organization to come. So with that, I will take a pause, and if there are any clarification, I'm happy to answer those. And thanks for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts. I'm happy to learn more as it continues journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Malik, for a very wonderful presentation. In fact, you could draw the entire emphasis into such a fact that now Mr. Pandya would be in a better position to make things clearer to the membership. Really great, sir. Over to Madam. Madam, it's all yours now.
Thank you so much, Lalit sir. This has been a wonderful session, and I'm sure all the members are enlightened for the program from your talk. Friends, I would request you, if you have any questions, I think you can put them in QA. And I think towards the end of this session, we shall take up all the question answers. Now we have amongst us CA Vikram Pandya ji, who is the guest speaker for the day. For the benefit of the members, I would briefly like to introduce CA Vikram Pandya ji. CA Vikram Pandya ji is Director of FinTech at SP Jain School of Global Management. He has authored several white papers and articles on FinTech domain. He has an extensive experience in banking, financial services, FinTech, consultancy, and training domain. He is founder and director of Association for Emerging Technologies. It's an NPO ecosystem initiative. He is also associated as a mentor with various FinTech startups and FinTech-focused funds across the globe. He is FinTech ambassador at Maharashtra government's Uday FinTech platform. He is also heading research arm of FinTech VC fund Varanium. He has been a successful banker for more than a decade, where he has made key contributions in financial and investor strategy, business intelligence, balance sheet management, business development, and technology solutions. He has been a visiting faculty at various prestigious global institutions. I welcome you, Vikram sir, and I would request you to start up with the deliberations for the benefit of the members at large.
Welcome, Vikram.
Thank you, Pooja ji, and thank you, Lalit ji, Dr. Nanda, to start and create a platform for me to now jumpstart this discussion. I will share my screen just a moment. I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay. So thank you. Today, the agenda from my side is to make sure that you get technical insights into some of the points that we have discussed so far. We are going to understand how the technology is impacting our profession. And not only that, we are going to look deeper into how you, as a chartered accountant, can leverage these technologies to ensure that next 20 year of your career is going to become more productive. And you can also gain more insights into how the things are changing and keep yourself updated in order to make sure the impact that you can make on any enterprise or your own startup consultancy is much higher. So with this, let's start. First and foremost, for any chartered accountant today, we need to understand what is the word FinTech actually means and the fabric of FinTech. And then we'll see how you can utilize some of this technology in whatever you are doing. It can be industry, accounting, auditing, whatever you are doing. You can try and use this in your own day-to-day activity. So fabric of FinTech is created out of two interwoven items. So number one, you have subdomains. This is nothing but your business subdomains: PayTech, CreditTech, InsurTech, WealthTech, RegTech, and SubTech. We'll discuss all of them in some of them in more detail, and some of them just touch upon that. Then we have enabling technologies. You have APIs, blockchain, AIML, big data, IoT, and AR, VR, MR. Now, what do we mean by fabric of FinTech? First of all, how technology and business domains are interacting in order to make sure you are able to solve business problems or create new business models. I will repeat, how you are able to use technology and business together to create either new business model or solve existing business problem. That is what we mean when we say fabric of FinTech. And each and every subdomain will have its own nuances, its own challenges, and we are supposed to understand that this problem statement that we are able to get as a functional expert, can we use these enabling technologies in order to solve this problem statements or not. But how can we use this emerging technology to identify new opportunities and make more revenue or reduce the cost? So that is what we need to look at. So first and foremost, PayTech, everyone understands that it is technology used in payment. It can be your B2B or B2C payment. Today, we are going to focus more on B2B side, given that most of you are aware about B2C. So when we think about technology from the corporate finance perspective, how the PayTech can be used, etc., etc. Second, which we have is credit tech or lending related technologies. Again, it becomes very critical for any company, whether you are on the other side of the table or you are a bank yourself. You need to think about risk and reward. Along with that, you need to think about changing scenarios, specifically in COVID. How can you optimize your portfolio by still keeping risk low? So all those things, again, it comes to emerging technology to solve certain problems. InsurTech, how can I do automated underwriting? How can I provide you risk-based pricing? Everything is in the InsurTech, as you know, is average risk pricing. So even if you are better than everyone else, you are paying average risk premium. So how can I use technology to identify more easily and accurately the premium that I am supposed to charge to an individual? That is what we are going to look at. And how can you automate the entire thing in such a manner that as a company, you don't need to file any claim, you don't need to do anything, but using blockchain and AIML together, you can easily trigger the insurance and it will be settled. Wealth tech, very critical for our profession. Why? Because we are the people who understands finance. We understand even the accounting part, taxation part, everything put together. If we add robo-advisor to that, then we can easily identify various opportunities available for an investor or our client and how effectively that risk reward metrics we can create for that individual and suggest certain things which otherwise is going to take a lot of time, and we cannot let's say go ahead and cater to multiple clients. Now, because of technology, even if you are a single person, you can cater to more than 100 clients. Otherwise, you can only cater to 10 clients. So that is again what we are going to look at. RegTech and SupTech, they go hand in hand. RegTech means regulatory technologies, while SupTech means supervisory technologies. So RegTech means that how you are going to use technologies in order to comply with the regulation. So for example, you are supposed to submit returns to RBI, or you are supposed to submit returns to SEBI, and so on and so forth. So whenever we are talking about compliance with technology, we are talking about RegTech. From the other side of the table, when the regulator, because of the increased complexity and increased size of the data, they would like to do supervisory activities using technology, we call that SupTech. So for example, rather than me sending returns to RBI, what if RBI is integrated into my system and there are certain returns which does not require any data massaging? So for that purpose, RBI can anytime pull it out. For example, whenever we are talking about government taking any initiatives, they would like to identify what kind of policy making they can do. They would like to get real-time data. And you normally know that suddenly you will get requirements saying that, okay, put this return. Now you will need to ask for 10 different things. What do you mean by this, that? Instead of that, what if RBI has created taxonomy and it is integrated with your ERP, and RBI is pulling the data rather than you pushing? So that is what we mean by SupTech, supervisory technologies. Now, when we come to enabling technology, first and foremost is API. API is nothing but application programming interface. And for us, we need to just think about that as data pipelines, which allow different systems to talk to each other, share the data across internet or across multiple different diverse systems. Why it is required? Because of API, you are able to create new business models where the data is available or the information is available or offers are available, the way you want to put it, to right customer at the right time, at the right place. And that is what you need to remember for that purpose. So APIs, really you need to think about whenever you are creating something, whether it is your new business which you are starting, you need to think about API economy today. I will give you another example. So when we think about Tele, so Tele, your data is in Tele, and you now would like to integrate that data in your Excel or other MIS system. How can you do that? One approach is just export the data and then import somewhere and do manually. Or you can create API connection to Tele, and then you can connect using API and generate report in 10 different systems wherever you are in the world. So that is another perspective behind the API. API economy is what is now driving the entire market. Whether you are aware or not, you are using API day in and day out. Second thing is blockchain. Most of the speakers earlier have discussed about what is blockchain. I will very simply put, for the sake of simplicity, what is a blockchain? It is the shared database. Let's assume that you are traveling by a train, and earlier you used to know that there are people who are playing game of cards, right? And when you are playing game of cards, instead of one person maintaining your record, what if everyone after every round is keeping the record? So let's say there are 10 people playing, and after a 10th round, somebody says that I won 8th round. Everyone can check and verify whether he or she won that or not. And if majority of the people say that no, it is not correct, then that person will need to either go out of the system or he will need to correct his or her record. So effectively, blockchain is about creating trust without trusting anyone. And second thing is, it is nothing but value transfer network. Because the main thing which you want for any financial transaction is trust. The moment you can get trust, you can now create value transfer network. And that's what blockchain does. Third thing, but very critical for our profession, is AIML. AIML, now we are going to go deeper into that further as well. But right now, for your understanding, you need to think about how well system can mimic human being in terms of decision making and in terms of inferences. So whenever we are trying to identify certain patterns, certain nuances about the decision making that we are doing from ourselves, can we teach it to computer? Yes or no? Earlier, it used to be rule engine driven. It used to be if then else statement driven, right? Today, it is not like that. Let's say you have an expert who you are hiring, and that expert is doing something. Computer can learn from that, and you can then use computer to then do it again over and over. It can improvise. It can also identify anomalies, etc. We will see that later. Big data. Given that we are living in digital economy where data, every day we are getting more and more data from different systems, from different activities, different devices, and that results into big data problem. Big data is a problem. What is the problem? You have volume, veracity, variety of the data, so on and so forth. And when we are looking at this data, volume of data, we can't use traditional technology and techniques to derive inferences out of it, derive patterns out of it. So what do? We try to identify a framework which can allow us to interpret data, allow us to analyze the data, and that is what we call as big data solution or frameworks which allow us to solve the big data problem. IoT or Internet of Things is nothing but how sensors can be used to convert physical attribute into digital. So when I say physical attribute into digital, you need to think about temperature, humidity, your heart rate. So your smartwatch, which can convert your heartbeat into digital data, is IoT device, which is connected to internet, and server can get the data and identify certain things. Or on the device, it can generate inferences using edge computing. So because of way the devices are becoming more and more cheaper, infrastructure in terms of 4G, 3G, whatever G you say, it is improving. And because of that, you are able to interact with these sensors much better. It is cheaper, so you can afford it more, and it can get integrated in the overall solution. So we'll see certain solution where you are integrating multiple different technologies together to come up with a solution. At the end, you have AR, VR, and MR. This is nothing but augmented reality, mixed reality, virtual reality, where you are trying to make sure that a person is getting experience as if he is present at the location, right? So that is what we are looking at. And there are certain use cases where this is much more useful, but not for everything. And one thing you should note, that none of these technologies can be a silver bullet for all the problem statement, right? You need to identify a problem statement, analyze it, look at the suitability framework for each and every technology, and identify whether a single technology is good enough to solve it, or you need to combine multiple technologies together in order to derive a solution. With this, let's look at some of the contextual understanding. And as we go ahead, more and more theory plus practical we will cover. So you will get certain hands-on example as well. So you can relate to what I'm saying, right? Rather than me just saying that, okay, this is possible, you can see it is happening. So first and foremost, let's look at our role as a profession. We have accounting and MIS, we have audit and assurance, taxation and law, and consultancy and advisory. I'm sure everyone knows about that. But when we think about how and where technology is fitting, that is when it becomes more interesting. So let's look at evaluation of accounting first. That is what we are focusing today mainly on. Management accounting, it includes everything, strategy and accounting and analysis, MIS, everything put together. So first and foremost, you look at traditional accounting, which was paper-based, then it became computerized, you have Tally, etc. Then it became cloud. Now you have FreshBook, Xero, so on and so forth. And it is now becoming bot-based. What do I mean by bot-based? Bot accounting is nothing but when you are using your smart device and it can automatically process transaction. So for instance, I can take the invoice from the email, automatically read the invoice, process the invoice, pass it in my accounting software, and I can also track the payment and auto reconcile this. So this, when I talk about as a process, this is a bot process. This you can relate to with RPA, robotic process automation, or there can be standalone solution just to pass accounting entry. So auto entry, bot accountant, etc. These are the solutions which you can use in order to pass an entry directly to the system. Now what happens? You have flexibility to choose whether you want to go ahead and manually verify or ratify. Otherwise, you can directly connect using API and it will pass it through. And believe me, most of the accounting entry that we do, almost 95% plus, are periodic in nature or routine in nature and repetitive in nature. Only 5% plus you can think about is going to be something unique, like general entries which you are passing, more complex, complicated, where we will need to put more effort. And as an accountant, if you are just going to put that much effort for that 5%, I'm sure you can now think about more analytical approach, and or you can go for more number of clients. And that is what it allows you to do. So technology that you are using here includes AIML. Why AIML? You need to identify and read the document first. So you are using something which we call it OCR technology and document recognition and placeholder identification. So all these things you are able to identify automatically using AIML engine. Second thing, what else you are using? So bot entry allows you to transfer data directly into your accounting system. How it is happening? API. So now we are able to relate to a solution with technology that we already have covered. So API is coming into picture, AIML is coming into picture. And when we are now connecting these two solutions together, we are able to solve one problem. And that is what we are referring to as auto entry problem. So this is first and foremost example, very easy to understand, that you can get email in your Outlook and immediately email can be opened by system. Attachment can be parsed, downloaded, parsed, and understood what is the attachment. Based on that, it can identify the accounting entry that it has to pass. If you have put that manual check, you can see and ratify the entry, or it can directly go into the accounting system. So this entire workflow which we are referring to is called RPA, robotic process automation. And in this scenario, we are looking at a specific process, right from getting the invoice and passing the entry. You can think about RPA as much bigger tool or concept or workflow, where it can do multiple different task automation. So we will see that as we go ahead. So up to this point, what we have covered is a single solution where we have used at least two technologies together to look at how it works. Now let's talk about triple entry. Now what do we mean by triple entry and what technology can help us, right? Which technology can help us? So when we think about double entry system, what is happening today? Most of the places you go for audit, you will go ahead and identify that, okay, this is balance as per my book and this is the balance as per third party book, or let's say vendor's book, creditor, debtor book. Now what you will need to do as an auditor, you will need to send account balance confirmation later. And that normally will take around, let's say, 1 week or 2 week minimum. Now, what if there is a feature, for example, somewhere which can automatically verify and tell you that no, both the systems are having same value. So without you asking a creditor or debtor that okay, this is the balance or not, you are getting answer immediately that yes, this is the balance in both the books. What if you can do that? And how can you do that? So let's take one example. You have sold something, and when you are selling something, of course, you are receiving whether it is check or whether it is on credit, doesn't matter. So you are passing accounting entries. Now, what if there is a third party, which is now, I'm talking about a manual intervention, a model where you don't require any technology whatsoever. So there is a trusted third party, which is sitting in between, and that third party is checking both of the books, saying that, okay, whether this entry is passed here, the same entry is passed here or not. When this is the scenario, that trusted third party will be able to tell you that yes, the balance is telling. Now, removing this manual third party, if you add blockchain in between, smart contract can use API, smart contract can identify using oracles whether the accounting entries that you are passing is equal and opposite or not, whether the shared balance is correct or not, right? Because this is a shared ledger. So the ledger is synchronized and you can verify whether the balance is same in company A's book versus company B's book. And because of this, as an auditor, you can just go and whatever you want to verify, you can verify using logs or audit trail available on this trusted third party. We can call that as Oracle. So it can allow us to identify the entire trail without even asking us that, okay, whether the balance is same or not. So this is what is changing again. And in future, you don't need to do reconciliation at all. You need to just go ahead, understand how to identify audit log, read audit log, and analyze the audit log in order to verify the balances. That's the major change which is happening. Then when we talk about process discovery, process mining, this is again very critical for any automation. When we think about automation, we need to think about how can we improvise on that. So data science is also connected to that. So I'm taking a couple of more minutes on this slide. Whenever we think about identification of step-by-step procedure and processes, whether it is for internal control basis or whether it is for automation purpose, we need to look at where all we are facing roadblocks, where all we are having hindrances, bottlenecks, and for that purpose, we are having ready-made tools today, which can read from your system, whatever ERP system you are using, whatever other system you are using. Today, you have logs available on those digital systems, and this process mining software will read those logs, identify how information is flowing from one place to another place. And in today's era specifically, when you are having hundreds of branches, thousands of people working on different things together, that becomes very complicated system, and we cannot identify who is not working well or where there are bottlenecks in the system. And that is when we need to use process mining to identify that, okay, these are the challenges we are facing in end-to-end process that we are having. And wherever we are facing bottlenecks, how can we improvise? Again, there AI/ML will tell us that, look, it looks like this person or this system is the reason behind this bottleneck. You may want to revisit this process. You may want to check with the person what issue that person has, or you need to check with the system what kind of issues that system is having. Based on that, you can automate everything. So this is how a typical robotic process automation looks like. This is what we have already seen earlier in accounting example. But when we are trying to automate certain things, at that point in time, this is what you will typically follow, right from whether you are receiving email, whether you are sending email, whatever is that scenario, read email, open Excel attachment, enter data from Excel to ERP platform. You need to do escalation. Is there some issue? Is there activity metrics that you need to follow? If yes or no, based on that, you will do certain things. And that's how your automation works. But from the strategy perspective, this is very critical slide, because now this will tell you what you need to remember or think about. Based on that, you can think about the entire automation journey. But this is where management will come into picture. So mapping with business priority, whether you are using AI/ML, blockchain, API, whatever it is, whatever kind of automation project you have or technology project you have, you need to start with mapping of your business priority with the technology outcome or implementation outcome that you are going to get. Always start with low hanging fruit, because if you go for very complicated project, purely management is not going to be happy because you are wasting time and resources, and meanwhile technology may change, and because of that your entire project will go for a toss. Second thing, synergize data pipeline. Now this is where you need to be aware about how data flows within your own company. Specifically given that in India now PDPB, which will become Act soon, but personal data protection bill is already there, which may become Act anytime soon. And you need to think about data life cycle within your company very carefully in order to understand where all data points are flowing, who all are included in that data life cycle, where all my data is flowing, for what purpose, etc., etc. Right from consent to the disposal of the data, I need to worry about that data life cycle. And because of that, for any automation project, you need to think about data life cycle first and foremost. When you think about data life cycle, your data lake, your data warehouses is integral part of that, and you need to be very careful about what kind of PPI, personally identifiable PII, not PPI, PII you are storing within the database and how you are utilizing it. Fortunately, today you have so many different technology and techniques for data privacy, which we will cover in the next point. But you need to remember that data lifecycle is very critical for that reason. Third party externality, whether you are using generated data from third party, whether you are consuming something using API, or whether you are sending through API someone, they will process something and send it to you back. Why this is critical? Because based on that, you need to reveal that data or type of data that you are supposed to reveal. Under the law, you need to have data officer governing all these things. So as a chartered accountant, a new role which will open up under Data Protection Act is going to be data officer. So as a data officer, you need to be aware about how the data is flowing, so on and so forth. Plus, you need to think about whether it is required in business parlance or nuance to share this data or not. Correct? All those things. So that is where chartered accountant can play major role. Another thing, when we think about ethical concerns, you need to think about data privacy. Under this, even if, let's say, data is encrypted, can you process the data without decrypting? Because the moment you are decrypting the data, unfortunately, what will happen? The data is decrypted and you need to have encryption and decryption key with you. So as a processor or as a custodian of the data, you should not be storing decryption key with you, or you should not be exposing it to someone else. So what you should do? There are technologies available. For example, zero knowledge proof, homomorphic encryption. Now this terminology may sound very frightening, but let me explain it to you very simply. For example, whenever we are applying for something, you are supposed to prove that are you more than 18 years of age or not. Why do you submit your date of birth? For that purpose, are you of legal age or not? Now in that scenario, what if I can just prove, just answer yes or no, that yes, I am over 18 or no, I am not over 18. In that scenario, it is good enough. I don't need to share my actual date of birth and proof. So what is happening here? This is what we call zero knowledge proof. Using mathematics, I can prove that I am over 18 years or not. Similar to that, I can prove using my bank statement whether I am having more than X balance or not. I don't need to share my actual bank statement completely. My bank can directly share. And fortunately, now we have account aggregator framework, Sahmati. You should all know about it. And then we have OCEN, which is Open Credit Enablement Network, which will allow us to go through this route where we don't need to share everything. If we don't want to, we can simply share certain outcomes. We'll touch upon that more in detail later. But right now, for your purpose, you should remember that you have tools available, techniques available to use without revealing any data. You can still work on that data. And because of that, it becomes very secure. Another example which I was giving about homomorphic encryption. For example, you are trying to do online poll or voting, and you don't know beforehand who is voting for whom, and that is how it should be. What if you are able to calculate overall votes that a candidate is receiving, and that candidate is identifying that, okay, total number of votes is this, without revealing who is voting for that candidate. Suddenly, because of that, you are able to identify number of votes without revealing who voted for whom. And that is how mathematics can reveal, without decrypting the data, what exactly you are calculating. Consent management, this is very critical, and this is where you have softwares available, and you can go with that consent management software for what purpose you are receiving the data or getting the data, how you are going to process, so on and so forth. Removing bias. Now, for any AML project, you should be very careful about what kind of data you are accepting and analyzing, based on which you are generating inferences. If it is garbage in, the outcome will be garbage out. So for AIML project, for any AIML project whatsoever, one example I can give you is about Amazon. Amazon created AI-based bot, which allows them to review CVs sent by the candidate. Now, based on the past data, what happened? More number of male candidates were accepted than female. And based on that past data, it was rejecting female candidate any which ways. So this is not something which is good. You need to ethically think about that, and you need to remove the bias. So there are ways and means a software can be used to remove that bias. And last is legal consideration. Now, what do I mean by that? Right? So you must have heard about recently multiple different things about blockchain, whether it is legal or not, cryptocurrency is legal or not. What is NFT, non-fungible token, whether it is legal or not. So all those things you need to think about. So now I will give you certain examples very quickly about what do I mean by that. So let's look at one such example of, this is one NFT, non-fungible token. This is representing this art. You must have read about recently that this non-fungible token was used to sell one real estate property. Now, when we think about blockchain-based non-fungible token, what do we mean by that? One simple example can be, let's say you are having Paytm wallet. In Paytm wallet, your wallet balance is fungible, which means that 1 rupee that you spend right now and 1 rupee that you spend after 1 minute, you can't isolate that way, saying that, okay, this was this 1 rupee. No, you can't identify that way. Overall, it is still a 1 rupee from your wallet. However, if I give you 100 rupee note with that serial number mentioned on that note, physical note, that becomes a unique note, and you cannot say that, okay, this note is same as another note, because you have a unique serial number on that. So that becomes your non-fungible token if you are representing that 100 rupee note digitally. So fungible versus non-fungible, I hope you are able to understand. So non-fungible token, when you are utilizing or trying to use it for some purpose, how you are going to pass accounting entry, how you are going to go ahead and think about taxes, and all those things you need to worry about. So in this scenario, if it is art, whatever time and effort you have put, that becomes your cost. And based on that, you can identify and verify. But how can I value my time when I'm, let's say, a person, an artist? So I need to identify, okay, how much I was charging earlier, what was the price my last painting was sold at, so on and so forth. It becomes very challenging. And with new technology, you will find certain new nuances that you need to think about. You need to think about how you are supposed to look at the existing regulation in new light. How can you interpret existing regulation in contextual manner, given what you are looking at? And that is what you all should be aware about. These are the new challenges which you will be getting in the next few years. And that is how you are going to differentiate yourself from others. Because those who are not keeping updated, not knowing what to do with the new technology, will be still doing what they are doing today. And unfortunately, let me tell you that those things will get automated. Whether 100% or not doesn't matter. Even if it is some part of it, you are still getting impacted overall. So number of chartered accountants will increase in future, but opportunities should also get increased. And that is why we are looking at what we are looking at. So that is one thing. Second thing, when we look at other legal consideration. So for example, let's look at this. This is what I was referring to as Association for Emerging Technologies. And I have created social credit as a reward token. And this is on blockchain. This is using Waves blockchain. And you can register, and at that point in time, it will give you certain rewards based on the activity that you are doing. So what do you mean? This is blockchain based. So is it cryptocurrency, or is it just a reward points like any other reward points that you are getting? So this is again a challenge. People don't understand this. As long as it is a closed ecosystem, you can think about this as reward points. Today, you know, somebody can go ahead and purchase in bulk credits to be utilized for sending email, SMSs, that is similar to this. Unless and until you are having certain rewards, which is equity in nature, you can still create ecosystem where you can generate reward points and you can use it. So this is where you need to be aware about what you are doing, whether it is security in nature or whether it is reward token in nature, and then think about whether it will be a cryptocurrency or not. This is a closed ecosystem. It can be used only on this for certain purpose. And because of that, it is a completely closed ecosystem. And it is similar to reward points and nothing else. Otherwise, if it is semi-open or something, I may need to still go for PPI license. Okay, I'm not creating any card, nothing like that. It is something which I'm just using for my purpose, and you must be knowing this. You have this reward points, etc., which you utilize on Big Basket, and for that there is no PPI required. Similar to that, you need to think about that and identify the same thing which you are doing any which ways, which you know about. How can you use it for the new technology like blockchain or cryptocurrency, right? And you need to then contextualize that under the given business problem. So let me continue that journey and show it to you. The next part, reskilling. Reskilling, we discussed about that. Earlier speakers also mentioned about that, but it should always be top down. I personally believe that unless and until management is buying into what changes they are doing, none of the bottom layer people can go ahead and do something. So reskilling is required from top down, but the way you are reskilling or the extent of reskilling or scope of reskilling will be very different based on the layer. So for top management, it is strategic in nature, and for bottom layer, it is more executionary in nature. So you need to know about how more about strategy part. How can you strategize about it correctly? Then you have digital design thinking and the customer experience. This goes without saying. For any automation you are doing, for any technologies that you are using, look, end of the day, technology should be invisible from the customer. Any technology that you are trying to use should improve the experience without showing that you are using this technology. Whether you use blockchain or not, your customer is not even bothered. As long as whatever he was doing earlier, he is able to do with better user experience, with lesser time and cost if possible. And that is what your primary purpose should be. Then you have managing change management. This is more theoretical, as you know, but end of the day, you should be able to identify how can you move on from the old system to the new one. People are rigid normally. They don't want to change. So you need to incentivize correctly. You need to plan it out correctly. And finally, ROI, right? Whenever you think about automation, automation can be short-term project or long-term project. Whenever it is short-term project, you need to be very careful about how you are putting KPIs. And when it is long-term, you need to have milestones which are very well defined for calculating ROI and reconciliation. You need to reconcile between what you have planned versus what you are having right now. That is also critical. Then last but not least, AI/ML, right? This is very useful for everyone because when we think about AI/ML, chartered accountants are domain experts. We are not supposed to know about programming and we don't need to. Using AutoML, you can use the data, prepare the data based on your industry experience and provide the data to the system, and system will do everything for you. That is the beauty of it. And as a domain expert, at the end, you can do predictions. So this is the traditional machine learning workflow where you start with the data, you explore the data, you prepare the data, do the feature engineering. What do you mean by feature engineering? So you may want to delete certain features or variables, and you may want to add certain more variables or combine multiple variables to make them more effective. Some example can be that, okay, whenever you are trying to predict price of property or price of any commodity, sometimes you may want to combine certain variables together, which may result into better correlation with the final output, so on and so forth. Then you have model selection, training, hyperparameter tuning, which means that you need to check what are the parameters you need to provide in order to train the model. At the end, you need to finalize that, okay, this is the inference that I'm trying to make, prediction that I'm trying to make. Fortunately, with AutoML, this entire thing will go away. You just need to worry about how to get the data. Everything else is done by the system, and you need to go with prediction. Next part is XAI. or explainable AI. Why it is critical? Mainly when you are talking about AI, people think about AI as black box. You can't understand what is going in, what is happening, and what is coming out. However, with today's technology, it is possible to identify why AI was taking certain decision, and based on that, you can decide, okay, I'm going to go ahead with that, or I'm not going to go ahead with this decision, and it is up to you to decide. So let me use certain examples again so that you can relate to what I'm saying. So this is one IBM OpenScale AI. So under this, we are trying to identify whether we should give loan to someone or not, right? That is what we are trying to do. So for that purpose, you need to have board approved resolution saying that, okay, if I'm using this AIML model, then this is a threshold beyond which I will not accept and below which I will accept, etc. So this threshold. So let's look at very quickly some of these things. So in this scenario, you are looking at risk. What is the risk that is available? And when you look at sex, right now you can see it is not debiased. It is right now biased. And when you debias, you can see there is one single button which I can click. This is a demo, but on a tool also you will find this option. And once you debias this, you can see now it is equal for male and female. And this is how you can debias. And let me now explain you that what you can do with the explain feature. So the outcome for this one is that, okay, it is risky, don't approve this. So a regulator may come, RBI may come and tell you, okay, explain me why you are not giving loan to this person. So you can click on explain and now you can see why it was not allowing, right? So let's look at some of the parameters first. So you have these parameters, number of dependents, existing credit count, savings, so on and so forth. And when the decision was made, this is what is happening behind the scene under that AIML model. Why the risk is what it is. 21.5% is attributable to age, 18.83 is attributable to checking account status, so and so forth. You can read that. So now, because of this, I can explain to regulator, and regulator will be happy to know that yes, there is some substance behind what I'm doing. It is not some magic which is happening, and I'm saying, okay, reject this and accept this. Why this is better than human? I cannot say that, okay, there was some bias which was happening. There was some collusion which was there between, nowadays you have heard about so many schemes where some promoter or someone was trying to work with certain data, and based on that you were able to get certain undue advantage. So that is not possible in AIML driven system. So it is much better than human driven system. At the same point in time, you should be able to explain what is happening and why it is happening, which is now possible. This is the beauty. And as practitionist, or let's say as a person who will practice, you should know this is a solution available. Once you train the model, once you deploy the model as a consultant, you can use this kind of explanation to provide it to your regulator and explain why it is what it is. But again, remember, you need to have management approval, or management or directors having put in place a policy saying that, okay, for example, the same outcome will have different consequences based on the policy. If policy says anything more than 60% in terms of risk score, I will reject, then this will be accepted because it is lower than 60%. But if your policy says anything more than 50% I will reject, then this will be rejected. So ultimately it will be based on your policy that you are using, and the policy should be constant. Okay. So that is what you need to think about. Let's continue. And this is not something new. There are people who are using it. Big fours are already in that. You have so many different examples: data analytics, taxation, whether it is management consultancy, identifying fraud, anomalies. So auditing is something which normally we are bothered with, and auditing is changing a lot. So in next slide, we will see how it is changing. This is a quick slide to show you ratio of human to machine working hours 2018 versus future. And you can see it is already changing. It is already changing from what it used to be, and it is going to change further. So we should be aware about that. We should be worried about that, and we should be ready for that. Now let's come to auditing part. How AI can be used in auditing as well. So same thing which we have seen AIML models can be used to do whether 100% audit earlier, which was not possible at all. Now you can do 100% audit because of AIML tools available and big data tools available. Otherwise, you can't process billions of data points. So in this automated audit, or at least assisted audit, you can use blockchain, you can use AIML, and you can use big data and APIs together to create a solution which you want. By API, you will need to read data from multiple different systems and consolidate data together. That's why APIs are required. Why AIML? You need to take inferences. Why big data? The data size might be very big for Reliance or some other big companies. So again, you require big data solution. And why blockchain? Sometimes for account confirmation, as I mentioned earlier, you may want to use it. And for audit trail also, you may want to use it. So under this MindBridge AI Auditor, you can provide the ERP system, connect the ERP system with the auditor, and it will give you inferences. It will tell you this set of transactions are looking fishy. Go ahead and examine those transactions. Okay, the trend is looking like it is odd. You need to look at this trend under this GL, so and so forth. There are so many things you can do in analytics, AIML. It can have its own curriculum, for example. But for your purpose, this is how you can do it. Another example is augmenting audit with assemble parent. Now, this is where again you can do 100% transaction audit, and you have multiple different tools available to do the same. One thing which most of the people are not aware about today is what we call as NLG, natural language generation. So when we talk about NLG, natural language generation, at that point in time, we need to think about how can we convert accounting data, numerical data into insights which everyone can consume. So for that, we have certain things available. You have tools like ARIA NLG or Quill. When you connect with Power BI, you can have your Excel data or Power BI data, and you can use ARIA NLG to generate insight. So for example, this entire thing is written automatically. Nobody is writing this. It is generated automatically. I can prove it to you by changing some of these parameters. So for example, so let me change this. I'm changing this quarter. So if I change some of these values, you will understand what I mean by that. So this is what it is right now. Let me change this here from the beginning. So I'm selecting only one quarter. Now this entire thing, you can see it is getting rewritten. The session has expired, so it is asking, but you can think about that. It is getting rewritten completely. I can give you another few examples where this entire thing is getting generated automatically. This entire dashboard, along with this, whatever is written is getting generated automatically. My version is slightly, I think, old now, so it is asking for update. Yeah, but you can see now this is new thing which is generated based on the level which I'm selecting. If I select whatever layer it is, it will generate automatically. If the data is coming new, if the data is changing, again it will generate automatically. I don't need to write it. So this is what the changes are happening. We need to think about it right from your audit report, from audit report to MIS report. Everything can be automated to certain extent. You should know what you can automate, what you can't automate, and you need to have a trade-off. Not everything you should try to automate, because then the ROI will be very small, right? You need to think about certain critical tasks where the ROI can be much higher. So that is what you need to think about. This is something you will do repeatedly every quarter, every month, every weekly, depends on your frequency of your report. So based on that, you may want to automate this using NLG, using Power BI kind of a tool, big data tool, and then create automated reports, right? Another kind of analysis that you can do, which I can demonstrate, is your ROC metric kind of analysis. It is a tool which sits on top of your data warehouse, and it can act as one analyst itself. So what happens? It is nothing but your search engine for your data. You can ask human language based queries. You can say, okay, in North region, what is the sales which is happening during this period? You can ask that, okay, who is the best performing sales agent? And it will give you the answer contextually correct. And this is what we call as NLP, natural language processing, and NLU, natural language understanding. So using AIML tools like this, you are able to automate everything together. And because of that, not only you are saving your time and cost, but also you are able to free your people from this repetitive task and deploy them in more meaningful job, right? And believe me, when I say automation is really cutting jobs, there are companies where I know because of this kind of automation, the MIS team was reduced from 20 to 5. One company where it was 185 people reduced to only 38 people. Now, whenever you are looking at this scenario, you need to be aware about that, okay, how can I become part of this rather than on the other side, right? If you are doing analytics, this may replace you. But what if you are understanding how to use this tool? What if you are understanding that, okay, this is how I can create such tool? That is where our future lies. Now, another example that I wanted to give you. So this is simply one GIF file, which gives you some context. But okay, this is the final part which I wanted to touch upon. Then I think we can have Q&A if you have any Q&A. I'll give you more examples if time permits, but this is the last part which I want to cover. As an accountant, we are worried about arm's length pricing, right? Transfer pricing, what should be the price that we are supposed to take when we are looking at transfer pricing? Now, it is very difficult for people to get arm's length price, given that whatever exact transaction that we are trying to figure out may not be there in the market, or it is very difficult to figure out. Right? Because of AIML model, because of clustering, similarity score, you are able to now do it using engines like Royalty Range. It can tell you the arm's length price by just looking at your ERP data entry or your invoice, etc. It can do that. Because of AIML model, it can easily do that. Legal robot, it can do legal referencing from multiple different contracts, multiple different acts, guidelines, and give it to you. Tax robots, you already know about them. Contract companion. Sometimes you need to remember that, okay, this is what a contract was earlier, and you need to identify that you are not missing any clauses, so on and so forth. It allows you for that. Zeagle. Now, this is legal RPA where you can have your own bot which can do entire automation for legal documentation. That is legal RPA. REI already discussed about NLG reports. Rise of RegTech, why we should be bothered about this? We are living into, or we are moving into, in fact, future where everything will be digital, whether it is your KYC, you already know, very recently RBI has come up with even further KYC related announcements where even SMEs are now going to be able to do eKYC. Earlier only retail customer was able to do it. Now, even when you think about DigiLocker, Aadhaar, so all these technologies take together is allowing you to automate certain things. And because of that GST data, because of Aadhaar data, you are able to create ecosystem like PNB loan in 59 minutes, right? Then you have discounting, invoice discounting platforms. All this is possible because of technology, and using blockchain and AIML, it can even go further, and automation can change the way you are looking at current business model as well. So your security that you are looking at, your equity that you are looking at will become smart. That is number one, right? In India, we are already looking at draft circulars where SEBI is looking into this. There are under sandbox, regulatory sandbox. And what is sandbox? Sandbox is nothing but a place where you can try out new business models with regulators' assistance. And in India, you have RBI sandbox, you have SEBI sandbox, and you have IDA sandbox. If you go through, you will realize what kind of new innovations are already cooking up and how it is going to change the way we are doing business, right? So whenever you are looking at that sandbox, smart equity will change everything what we are doing here. It will automatically have lock-in period. It can identify whether somebody is eligible to buy this equity or not, what kind of compliance you are supposed to submit. Automatically, it can trigger those compliances, so on and so forth. It is going to use smart contracts, blockchain, and the way things are moving. Estonia is already using it. Switzerland is already having it. In India, very soon we may have it. That is one thing you should be aware about. High frequency trading, you are aware about. You have bots, trading bots that can understand the strategy and implement it, so on and so forth. Now, let me give you one last example where you can now relate to whatever we have mentioned together and look at how things are changing there as well. So this is one such example where I think you should be aware about a small change in technology, how it is changing entire ecosystem, right? So this is a application or startup called Osta app. It is possible because of some changes in UPI, and those features are called UPI 2.0. Under UPI 2.0, you can suddenly ask for auto pay mandate. You can go ahead and like ASBA. In ASBA, you know that your account is not debited immediately, but you can, based on certain conditions, you can debit the account, right? Whether the shares are allotted to you or not, you can decide and debit the account. Similar to that in UPI, you have overdraft facility, which you can dynamically grant. Under UPI, you have facility to block account balance and then release it. Using that, you can have something like this: hold, release, and pay. So what do I mean by that? So easily, as a SME or a startup or a chartered accountant, for example, you can ask your client that, okay, this is XYZ service I'm supposed to provide. Rather than creating escrow account, you can use some service like this: hold balance, you are not paying it, hold the balance, deliver the service, get the money based on the condition. Similar to that, you can go ahead with certain new things like you have auto pay mandate. Whenever you are providing credit to someone, loan to someone, whenever the balance comes, immediately you can have first priority on that balance. That is also possible through UPI mandate. So, for example, you are doing audit for one merchant, and now you can provide this merchant a solution where merchant can go for POS based loan. And when you are talking about POS based loan, it means that whenever merchant is getting swipes, from that swipe, some money can go for EMI, and the rest of the money will come to his or her account. And that is how you can create new business model using some of these changes that you are able to see. Another example is trade finance. People have spoken about it, but I will give you end-to-end trade finance model where all the technologies that we have mentioned will come together. So when we think about trade finance documentation, right from the documentation, it can be on blockchain, it can be done using DigiLocker, so on and so forth. Then you have IoT devices when you are sending some consignment, and under that consignment, you may want to think about certain areas where temperature is sensitive parameter, humidity can be sensitive parameter, and if it breaches, your insurance should get triggered. So first of all, you will have smart insurance, which will be on blockchain. So because of that, whenever IoT device, IoT sensor is telling you that temperature is beyond this limit, automatically blockchain based smart contract will come into picture. It will get triggered, and because of that, you don't need to file for any claim settlement. It is settled by default. It knows everything about you. It knows you have paid for these. It knows that the contract is now due or claim is due for settlement because of IoT device, which you can't tamper with. So this entire journey which you are looking at is automated journey. Why it is automated? Because you are able to use multiple technology together. Otherwise, it would not have been possible. Similar to that, when we are talking about any farm, same thing is applicable. Today, government is defining that this is drought affected area, this is area with flood. Instead of that, you can have IoT device, you can have farm or crop insurance, which is on blockchain. You can have land registry, which is on blockchain, so you don't need to verify whether this land is really belonging to this XYZ person or not. And using blockchain, using AIML, IoT, you can easily trigger contract. Government can say that if IoT device reading in this area is below XYZ limit, humidity, rainfall, then this is drought affected area or it is flood affected area. And based on this scientific announcement, your claims will be processed. So there is no ambiguity whatsoever, no corruption possibility, no way you can go wrong in that. Everything is transparent, and that is the future. In UK and again in Swiss, it is happening, already happening. In India, most of the governments are trying to bring data to blockchain registry. So land records in Maharashtra, in Telangana, Karnataka, etc. It is becoming more and more transparent, first of all. So it is digitized. That is number one. And now it is getting transferred to blockchain. That is second step. So even governments are using blockchain for this purpose, and this is the future. So you should know about this. Another example which I can give you is about how property fractionalization is happening. So you have models like PropertyShare.in, where your entire property is subdivided into tokens and you are able to purchase it. How you are able to purchase it? You can have one vehicle like private limited company or LLP, where you are investing as shareholder and you are now investing finally from the private limited company or a vehicle. It can be LLP also. From that vehicle, you are investing into that property, commercial or otherwise, doesn't matter. So there are models like that. Now the same thing you can use even tokenization if allowed in India. It is right now not allowed, but in Dubai it is happening. You can buy 1 square feet of let's say a flat in Buleshwar or Kalba Devi, which otherwise you can't afford today. Complete flat you can't afford, but you can buy maybe 1 square feet. That is possible, and which is happening which may happen in India in future. So this is something you need to think about. As a chartered accountant, you will be the one designing and defining smart contract. You are not going to be one who is going to code or program that smart contract. Designing smart contract is business side and coding the smart contract is programming side. We will play major role on the strategy side, on the business workflow side, and that is when you should know what you can do and what you can't do in blockchain. So all those things where you need to think about more and more and identify opportunity before it becomes normal, right? You know, in normal market, you know, everyone knows about everything and there is normal profit. But in a market, when somebody is knowing something extra, that is when they make abnormal profit or supernormal profit. That is what I'm trying to tell you, that as a chartered accountant, we should be looking at these new opportunities, and once we know about something new which others are not aware about, then only we can make supernormal profit. Or we can stay relevant. At least we need to stay relevant. If everybody knows, at least we are also aware about it. And I can tell you that how many instances which I have seen, how many places where I have seen that technology is used in wrong manner. So when I say wrong manner, means that you are just doing RPA for the sake of doing it. It will ruin your ROI. First and foremost, it will not give you the desired output at all. And at the end, you will think that, okay, this was not worth it. So because of that, whenever you think about technology, think about suitability. For example, blockchain is not suitable for everything. In blockchain, you need to think about FITS model, which means that you need to think about fraud likelihood. I stands for number of intermediaries. T stands for throughput. And lastly, S stands for staticness of data. So when you have higher fraud likelihood, go for blockchain. When you have more number of intermediaries, go for blockchain. If the throughput is very high, don't go for blockchain. Nowadays, you have blockchain frameworks which can support higher throughput. But traditionally, when you look at, you are better off with lower throughput. And last is staticness of data. If you are trying to implement blockchain for trading platform, where you are supposed to change order every few seconds, it is not useful because on blockchain, data is immutable. You should not be using blockchain for something which is not suitable for blockchain. At the end of the day, your technology readiness or your identification of right technology for the right business problem will define your ROI and whether you are successful in that or not. So this is what I wanted to share with you all. And I'm open to any question. I want to give more time to answer questions because that is when I believe that I can add even more value to you guys. Over to you.
Thank you, Vikramji. I must say this was a wonderful session we all had, and a lot of comments have come with regard to informative. A lot of people have taken advantage of it. Which technology should scale that will offer more opportunities?
Normally depends on your strength or your domain, but I will say at least you should be aware about AI/ML for sure and data analytics. AI/ML and data analytics is something we should all be aware about, irrespective of where we are, which domain we are in. Blockchain, etc., is contextual, so you may or may not want to learn, but you should be aware about it. Again, we should be aware about everything, but you want to go deeper into one of these areas, and AI/ML and big data is something we should all be aware about. Analytics at least.
Analytics, at least. Right. I hope, Dipali, that sorts your query. Sir, Alankar Manoj Bhatt he's asking as to providing some more insight on cloud accounting.
Sure. So what happens under cloud accounting? So think like this, right? Normally, what used to happen, your account because used to again is that whenever you want to take it out or you want to transfer data, you need to be present there. Also, when you want to integrate with something else, you need to export the data and then send it, so and so forth. Now, today, what is cloud? I'm assuming you know already that part, so I'm not going to spend time on that. But in a simpler word, you have distributed and decentralized ecosystem. And in this scenario, specifically, when you think about cloud, it is distributed, not decentralized, but distributed. You have Amazons of the world, you have Googles of the world, where they have so many servers and computing resources where you can just rent out certain space and put certain things, right? Now, this cloud provider is going to provide you service at much cheaper rate. Rather than you getting that hardware or software, you can just go to cloud provider and you can ask it, okay, I want this space. Now, if you are a developer, if you are developing accounting software, and if you are developing it on cloud, there are so many advantages that you can go for. First of all, you can provide software as a service. Earlier, it used to be that one-time sale you used to do, and then you forget about it. Now, it is software as a service, which means that tomorrow, if there are new updates you want to provide, you can keep on charging for that on annual basis. You will get recurring payment on annual or periodic basis. That is the first advantage. Second, what if I want to provide integration? For example, most of the people who are traveling using Ola, Uber, you can now integrate that application with your accounting system. And there are options. If you go in Ola, Uber, Ola for Business or Uber for Business, if you go, they will provide you option to integrate with ERP, and your automation will be that from your Ola Uber app, your entry will go into ERP system. It is possible because it is on cloud and you can connect cloud to cloud easily. If it was your on-premise system, you require to open APIs from your side and then you need to connect, integrate APIs. Now you don't need to worry about it. Any system you think about can talk to your ERP and entry can happen automatically. You don't need to worry about that. You can open access to auditor also without him coming to your premises. So many advantages, right? Yes, there are disadvantages about data privacy security, which you need to be aware about. But with some advantage, you need to balance disadvantages and think about how you can overcome those difficulties.
Okay, Vikram sir. Thank you so much. Now we have CA Ratan K. Rathi ji. I think he has an observation to this point. He says technology development are fast making process of accounts and finance reporting very fast, which pose challenge for the companies and to the auditors as multiple technological channels are not bundled into the common rule and audit trails are diminishing. So there's need for some standards and strict guidelines for its usage and auto documentation. So I think his question is with regard to whether there are any specific standards or guidelines wherein audit trails or audit documentations could be catered to. So Vikram sir, can you give some insight on this?
Sure. So I will give you end-to-end insight. First of all, let's think about this, right? Let's think about first and foremost manual accounting. Right? Whenever you used to do manual accounting, it was paper-based and you used to do it. And there was a concept of someone coming to your place and doing it, right? Now, once we are looking at other extreme is cloud-based or even automated. We are talking about thousands of systems talking together. And for that, we are already having API. And for that purpose, you have that standard, which we are referring to right now. But whether there is regulatory standard or not, answer is no. However, for most of the stuff like XBRL, returns, etc., you are given output standard. Right? So regulator will accept your output in certain format. And for that purpose, most of these accounting system providers are having this output plugin or system where you can get output in certain manner. End of the day, you need to think about input, process, and output. Now, input, whether it is in standardized format or not, now it is taken care of by APIs, because now you can talk to 10 different systems, 1,000 different systems using API, get the data in a format, and then you can process that. Now, output, again, it depends on whether you can have a standardization for that. If RBI tomorrow says, or let's say if MCA tomorrow says that you need to provide from your ERP system output in this format, then everyone will follow that outcome. As simple as that. So you need to think about whether there is a requirement, first of all. If there is a requirement, in certain areas, you need to have that. In certain areas, you need to allow for certain creativity. Why? For example, certain businesses will go for certain different MIS nuances, right? So, for example, hotel industry will be looking at very different parameters when they go for analytics. And when I go for any hospital, they will go for very different analytics than for a bank or NBFC or insurance company. They will go for very different analytics. I can standardize certain things. I need to leave certain things for people to ask for, right? Or infer for. So that is where I think a thin red line is there today. And the more we standardize, more you are killing the creativity, but at the same point in time, you are becoming more prescriptive rather than allowing for more inferences that you can derive from the data. So that is the best practice you people may follow. You can have self-governance or you can have regulator telling you about certain things, right? Today, if you look at crypto exchanges, they are following self-regulation. They are gathering information, for example, your KYC, etc., based on self-regulation. You don't have somebody telling you certain things, but you know that if you are governed, this is how you are supposed to follow it. So even before that comes, you are complying with certain things, and that is what you can do.
Right, sir. I think the regulator is actually taking care of that, because we've been seeing a lot of things getting auto-filled up. Even in GST returns, even in income tax also, we are having that thing. In bank audits, the LAFAR and the other reporting parameters most of them are automated now and self-driven from the system. I think using the technology with the regulator coming up with the specific prescribed rules and regulations and the standard formats, I think we are moving towards that direction only.
Absolutely
right.
Right,
Vikramji, thank you so much.
If there are more questions, I'm happy to take. Otherwise, one small example I will give you in between. So when you think about this Manrega and all these government schemes, right? Now under Umang, you have all these schemes together. Correct? Unfortunately, not many people even are aware about different initiatives that government is doing, different schemes which are available. So Umang is now consolidating everything together. Even if you are from the business perspective, you are trying to either identify new opportunities, new schemes, a new set of customers, you should all go through data.gov.in, Umang, and so forth, where the data is available. Data from MSME to different consumer behavioral data, all these things are available. It is taxpayers' money which we are paying, and this data is maintained. But not many people are aware about this, that you can use this data, you can consume this data for your business purpose as well. So people should be aware about these are the schemes available. You can apply for these schemes. These are the data points available which you can integrate in your ERP and take certain decision making which otherwise is not possible. So these are the things which I wanted to highlight.
Definitely, sir. I think most of us are not aware about this Umang app also, and I think people can explore on that. There is only just last question that this slides will be shared. Definitely, the slides will be shared. Gyanji, I think we will be sharing the PPT to all the members. Please, Vikramji, do that, because a lot of people, I think, would like to take benefit out of that.
Definitely.
I think, friends, I think that's for today's session. I think there are not much questions left. We are well in time. It's just 7:50 and we've still got 10 more minutes. So, Vikramji, anything I think you can further add on with regard to what all other apps are there which we can connect to our systems? Because the government has come up with this system wherein the audit trail has been made mandatory. Now it has been postponed because of this COVID. It was applicable from 1st of April. So a lot of small businessmen who are not maintaining accounts day-to-day basis, they are under a stress as to how to, get into that habit of daily recording the data. So I think you can give some insight for us, for the other professional members also who are being asked by a lot of clients as to how to manage this kind of thing. Invoice furnishing facility has been made by 13th of every month. You have to upload the invoices even if you are under QRMP. So I think this is, we would look inside from you, Vikramji.
Sure, definitely. Let me share my screen again so that I can demonstrate certain things. So for example, when you look at Amazon Quantum DB, now you don't need to worry about even blockchain. Certain things which are available, which you can just connect with your current workflow. And this Quantum DB is immutable. So it means that it is mainly you can use for audit trail. It is low cost. You can integrate. Some developer can come and just integrate easily. It is not going to cost you much. When you think about it, it is software as a service or database as a service in this case. So you can go ahead with this, and it is much simpler to transfer to or integrate to, right? So this is one example which I wanted to give from the reputed company, more scalable. Let's say today you are a small startup, but tomorrow you are growing up, right? You can still continue to use it.
Yes,
forever.
definitely.
So this is one example which I wanted to provide, that even if you are, let's say, not aware about blockchain, you don't want to use blockchain. Sometimes blockchain implementation may cost you bomb. So you don't want to go for that. At least you can think about something like this, where your existing data workflow or ERP workflow or whatever workflow, Excel also. Today you are using Excel. You can even have
most
automation.
of the clients.
Correct. So you can have Excel automation done, macros created, which can put this accounting records or logs to this QuantumDB online, which is possible. So very quickly, let me give you one more example, right? So why it is possible and what you can do with that, right? So most of the chartered accountants today are creating invoices and sending invoices to the client, right? And then they need to reconcile. So you have add-ins like this from PayU and other providers, where you can simply go, you can create new invoice sheet, generate, add new customer. And once you add the customer, if I really do it, one SMS and email will come to you. You make the payment in Excel in itself. It will reconcile and show me that the payment is made directly in Excel. I don't need to go anywhere.
That's nice.
So this is how you can automate certain stuff from Excel, connect to your quantum database, and it can serve the purpose. Government will be more than happy that it is immutable data. It is automated, so there is no manual intervention possible, and you can prove that. As long as you can prove that, you can go ahead and do whatever you want. That it is immutable, it is not modifiable, nobody can temper it, so on and so forth.
Great, Vikramji. Thank you so much, sir. This is actually wonderful, and a lot of people will take benefit out of it.
One example that I wanted to give, very few people even know about that, GPT-3, OpenAI by Elon Musk. You must have heard about it. So when you think about that, so OpenAI, when you think about this is, I'm one of the very few people in India to have this access. So just think about this, right? A human brain has more than few trillion connection of neurons, right? When we think about AI, we are today at around 200 billion neurons, and we are moving towards those trillions of neurons. And with that also, when you look at something like this, I can just ask a question. I have not tried this. How accurate it is going to be, I don't know. But let's try it out. Right? Let's see what happens.
10 minutes.
So I am just giving this input. So look at this. This is the outcome given by AI. How accurate it is, I don't know right now. I have not seen that, but I can say at least that much, that in future, AI is going to change most of the stuff. So we need to know how to work with AI for sure. And given the future that we are all heading towards, at least knowing one technology is very critical, at least one. More the better, more the merrier, but at least one technology you should know. And that's why I said AI/ML with data analytics is what you should all know.
Definitely.
API, etc. is secondary. You are using it any which ways, but if you are aware about it, at least you can then go ahead in your consultancy, in your current role, you can tell someone that, okay, this is what you can do, which otherwise is not possible. This is how you can integrate technology together and create a new business model.
Great. Thank you so much, Vikramji. That was actually insightful.
I hope there are no other questions.
No, Vikramji, there are no further questions.
Thank you.
Okay. Looking at the automation of the entire accounting function, will auditing as a profession be still relevant? Definitely, Kashyapji, it will be definitely relevant.
But the way you are doing it will be very different.
The way is going to be different, but auditing is not going anywhere.
Correct. So I will tell you one real scenario where there is a company in US where the auditor, the entire audit team is from the programming side. Only one person is from the accounting background. Everyone else is from programming background. Just think about it. That's the future of mix. The mix of audit team is changing. The skill required is changing. So that is what the future is.
Mr. Pandya, I would like to add that the accounting profession is perpetual. It will remain till eternity.
Correct.
And the best part is that one mind that does the accounting and other people who do the programming, the mind is paid more than the sum total of all the salaries which are paid to the total programming
Right.
staff. Madam, we have any
Right.
other question? Pooja ji, we have another question?
No, Nandaji, no
Last
further
question I want to
questions.
ask Mr. Pandya. This program is viewed by chartered accountants all across the country. So your message that if they want to come and practice in fintech, what has to be their skill sets and how they'll be able to actively get involved into it?
Sure, definitely. First and foremost, you need to change your attitude and aptitude towards understanding technology. If you don't understand programming, that is fine, perfectly okay. But you need to know what is that technology all about, what it can do, what are the nuances that you can think about along with other technology it can be used, and you can create a business model. That is the first and foremost. Second, from the skill perspective, look, we as a chartered accountant, we already possess so many skills, right? We know about accounting, we know about auditing, so on and so forth. Along with that, we are nowadays also taught about technology, correct? Now, what we need to think about is how we can use some of the knowledge which we already possess and connect the dots. It is very critical to connect the dots. Many people know everything, but they don't know how to connect the dots together.
Connect the dots together.
Yeah, connect the dots together. You need to look at the big picture.
I appreciate.
So
Yes.
you need to look at the big picture, connect the dots, and think about how different things. Today you can Google thousands of things, right? Google is available, tell you everything what you need to know about. So today your memory is not useful. Your ability to be creative and how to connect the dots is very critical. You can do Google for everything, but Google will not tell you that now merge these 10 things and create this solution.
How you have
That
to
is where
make
you
the
need to
final
think.
present. The final presentation is very important,
Correct.
very paramount.
Correct. That is what you need to think about. And end of the day, programs like what we run, XPGen, or even Institute what you run, or let's say other institutes run, right? You can think about that based on your interest. You can go for such program. Keep yourself updated. That's it.
Great. Madam, the dice is all yours. Thank you so much, Mr. Pandya, for a wonderful
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
I'm receiving
Pandya
so
ji.
many calls from members.
Thank
They're
you so
happy.
much.
And nice presentation, Pooja ji, and nice
Yeah,
analysis of
absolutely.
Mr. Sharma ji and Navneet ji. I'm really obliged they were through the whole session. That is great. Over to Madam. Over to you.
Right, sir. Thank you so much, Nandaji. Now it's time to propose a vote of thanks, a formal vote of thanks for the entire session. I would request Vice Chairman Himachal Pradesh Branch, Navneet Sharma ji, to kindly propose a formal vote of thanks to our esteemed speakers. Please.
Thank you, Pooja ji. I deem it a great honor and privilege to propose vote of thanks on behalf of HPC branch of NIMC of ICI and on my own behalf. I would like to thank CA Vikram Pandya ji, our eminent speaker, for today's valuable session. I hope members will definitely find it valuable and make best use of it. I would like to thank specially our chief guest, CA Lalit Malik ji, CFO Torrent Power Limited, to spare his valuable time and grace this VCM. I would like to thank our Chairman Committee of Management Accounting, CA Charanjot Singh Nanda ji, for providing us this knowledgeable digital platform, and special thanks to our esteemed panelists and participants for making this VCM successful. Thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. At the
Thank
end,
you.
I would like to say one thing. I would like to put on sincere record that today what Mr. Malik and Mr. Pandya shared was something which was really commendable. I was sitting and receiving so many calls from members who are very excited and have asked them that we should have more such sessions in times to come. I am thankful to Madam also, Pooja Trika, who has put her best to ensure that the session remained lively, and particularly both of our members from the Chairman and Vice Chairman of Himachal Pradesh branch, Jitendra ji and Navneet ji, to ensure that the continuity. Mr. Malik spoke about business process continuity. I speak about the program continuity. That is also important. With the indulgence of all, we'll be able to serve this committee and ensure that we do the best and bring laurels to this great profession. The flag of the institute should always fly at highest levels. Thank you so much, madam.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.